Well, like I said, changing practice is difficult. It's really difficult. I've come across plenty of very enthusiastic teachers who many of them really want to make the changes sustainable. They want those changes to stick. They're highly motivated and driven by this imaginary of the 21st century. I think it's also fair to say, though, that they're not, for example, in the high school context, they're not throwing their baby out of the bathwater, as it were, in terms of, suggesting that, well, we don't need knowledge, for example. So it's not unusual in a high school setting to still see, NCA is still very much alive and well, and students have to be given the opportunity of developing a portfolio of credits. So, clearly for that to happen, there needs to be at least some form of knowledge transference going on. In primary settings, I'm finding that teachers are willing to experiment with a range of pedagogies that provide a dispersal of activity. So throughout any particular time of day, it's quite common to see a large number of students engaged in several different kinds of activities that are not necessarily related. So the idea that okay, class, today we're going to study this theorem, turn to page 32 and we're going to do exercise 1. And as one little boy said to me in one of the primary schools where he'd just started that year, he was in, I think, year 5 or something, and he'd come from a traditional school. And I said to him, well, what's the difference for you? And he said, well, the difference is in his previous school, they'd start fractions on Monday, and they'd still be doing fractions on Tuesday. But then he's got it. Wednesday they're still doing fractions, and Friday they're still doing fractions because there's still some students who haven't got it. But he got it on Tuesday, but now still busy doing the same work on Friday. I think, out of the mouths of babes, I mean, he made a very valid pedagogical point there, I think, which not even differentiation will cope with, because all you're doing with differentiation is saying, okay, I'm just going to give you a whole bunch of new fractions to deal with. Maybe they're more difficult fractions, but they're still fractions because that's what we're doing this week is fractions. Now, when you begin to diversify the activities across a whole range of options, and you start giving students more choice over what it is they might be busy with at any given time, sure, you might say in this block of time we are doing maths, and so really we expect you to be busy with some form of mathematics. But look at all these different activities you could be doing, because these are some of the things we've been working on, these are some of the things we need to be working on, and you need to select from amongst those activities. That's one model. And the other model is that actually, if you finish your mathematics, feel free to get on with writing your reflective log about your learning that you were doing yesterday or whatever. So what I'm learning from that is that to the untrained eye, it looks like, I want to say feral chooks. It looks like free-range chickens. I mean, it looks like, there appears to be, on the face of it, for some, it appears as if there's no organisation at all. It's just, like organised chaos at best. But what I've learned is that teachers work really systematically, very diligently, and they set up some very clear-cut structures in the background that are not clear to the untrained eye or to the casual observer. But I mean, some of the schools are very good at actually making that kind of planning visible even to parents, through intranet websites, intranet sites and so on. So that parents can see the kind of planning going on. So it's not, and that in itself is, that in itself is a revelation, because, where would a traditional school, where would the teachers in a traditional school share their planning with each other, let alone sharing all our planning with the parents? That just seems to be a bridge too far for some schools. But clearly you don't successfully get students working on a range of personalised tasks diverse number of tasks during a particular period of time, and they're not, some very clear planning in the background.